Okay, we're here today to fix a couple of firearm problems that both involve the front sight. Now, the first one that we're going to look at is not my rifle. It is the rifle of my best buddy, George. Of course, we've been shooting together since we were in the 8th grade, really. And he has reached the ripe old age of 61 and can no longer see his front sight. I already knocked this one out of the rifle, and I probably should have let you watch that process. But the fact of the matter is that if you have one of these blocks for punching out roll pins and things, it makes it very easy to tap out a front sight that's in a dovetail. His rifle is a Winchester model 94-22, and you can see that it has the 3/8 inch dovetail, like most front sights and rear sights back in the day were put in a 3/8 inch dovetail, and it wasn't very hard to tap out. Generally, people will use a brass punch. I didn't have a brass punch with me, so the fact of the matter is that just use the widest punch possible so it spreads the energy over the farthest distance on the sight, and just tap it out. Usually it's no big deal. They tap out pretty well, and you can see it marred it just a little bit right there on that side. No big deal. We go to put that back in, I'll just hit that with a little cold bluing. Nobody will be the wiser, especially when you take a look at the history of this old rifle. It would look really out of place to have a new perfectly blued part on it anywhere. But what we're going to swap it back with is a high-vis fiber optic sight. Now, the deal about these is you take a micrometer reading from the top of the sight to the bottom, including the dovetail. This one happens to be what is it, 2.9, 2.6, or 0.26 inches, so a shade over 1/4 of an inch. And just so happens that High-Vis makes one in just that size. You see there, they've got that mark. So we're going to open this up, and we're going to try to put this in without messing it up too bad. Now, a lot of these will be basically you drift them into place. There's no guarantee that you won't have to do a little bit of filing to make this fit that dovetail, and that's, you'd rather have one a little oversized than undersized because you can file it in. Now, I have checked this one out, and it looks like we're going to be able to just tap it right in. But if not, if you have to file, let me get this. If you have to file, take you a small file, and it's probably going to be the triangle shaped file, and be sure that you file it evenly, that you not take any of the angle off, that you just take it straight off the face of the angle. And the reason I say file the sight is make the sight fit the gun, don't make the gun fit the sight. And that way, if you ever decide to change out sights, you won't have wallered a big hole on your rifle. The sight will have basically, the new sight you're putting in may fit perfectly in that old dovetail. So I'm going to try to, I don't know how good you'll be able to see what I'm doing, but we're going to try it this way. Basically, I'm going to let the round part of the barrel sit in there, and I'm going to give that something to rest against, and we're going to tap it in place. And I have a brass hammer, and that will probably do it. And all I'm doing is feeling, yeah, it needs to go a little farther. I'm basically evening it up. Now, the funny thing is, I checked before I took this one out, or took the old one out, and the old one was driven a little, that's perfect right there, I believe. The old one was actually driven a little bit to the right, so I'm leaving this a little proud right here on this edge, and just to see where it's hitting. Of course, on these rifles like this, your front sight is where you adjust your windage. The rear sight is where you adjust your elevation, and you can actually get a little windage out of moving this in the dovetail if you need to, but I think it's better to keep this centered and let your front sight be the one. And always remember, it seems your front sight, you have to move very little to get the movement you need, but it always moves opposite of the rear sight, so keep that in mind. And when you're sighting in. Well, we've got this job done. That was pretty simple. Now you'll see there's a little bit of marring right there, but it's brass, so it should wipe off very easily with a little bit of gun cleaning solvent. That's the good thing about having a brass hammer or a brass punch. You don't damage the steel. So now I'm very anxious to just look down this sight and see what my buddy George is going to see. We've checked this thing and we made sure it's empty, so, and I'm not going to dry fire it anyway, so, and we're going to always keep it pointed in a safe direction. Oh man, that makes a world of difference. I think he's going to love that. The worst thing about ordering things like this is paying the shipping on small gun parts. Now, speaking of small gun parts, we got another one we need to install for George, because he sent this home with me to give it a good cleaning, and then he was anxious to try out my new golf ball target that you can see it, I think, in one of the videos before this one on my channel. And I noticed that his barrel band was slid all the way back to here. Now that looked a little funny to me, and sure enough, you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but maybe if I get it against there's a small indentation milled out of the barrel and one milled out of the magazine tube where the screw for this is supposed to go through. Well, obviously, the way that bluing is wore right there, it's been riding there for years. But it will allow this tube. There's also one right here in this barrel band that's done pretty much the same way. But both of them being on there will keep your magazine tube from pulling out any. And we did notice when he was shooting that his magazine tube at one point moved out because he had filled it up and put pressure on, and it moved out a little bit. Obviously, the detent for this screw wasn't enough to hold it, but I think if we replace this old screw where it's missing, that'll fix that problem, and he won't have that again. But here's the deal: when you need to realize that when you have to order small parts from places like Numerous Arms or Jack First, that the shipping's probably going to cost as much or more as the part. So don't forget that when you're figuring in. Now, obviously, if I was a gunsmith and worked on guns all the time, I could kind of save up an order and save a little bit on shipping. But as infrequently as I work on guns, because basically I work on my own and the guns in my family, and guns that belong to friends. I mean, I don't do this for a profit. I do it for fun. So I don't stock parts, and I'm not gonna. If somebody needs a part, we're gonna have to order it then and get it in, because the next order I make might be 6 months or a year away. So just remember that it's gonna count. That shipping's gonna probably be almost as much as the part is to get it. So I think this screw for this front band was $12, and shipping was $8. So, and you gotta, I mean, these are, I don't know when this gun was made, but judging by the serial number, definitely early 70s, quite possibly even late 60s. So finding parts for some of these old guns is pretty tough. You got to get them where you can get them, and you got to get them when you can get them, because they're not, like Numerous Arms sells used parts. And I mean, that means they may have just gotten in one gun and they parted it out, and they may have it now, and it may 2 or 3 years before they get another one. So get them while you can get them, and wherever you can get them. And I don't have a screwdriver here at the table with me, so I'm going to go over here and get one, and we're going to see if we can tighten this up. I'll be back in a second. All right, so here we are. Let me get my camera angle fixed a little. So here we are. I'm going to put the screw in, going to make sure it lines up really good with the spot in the barrel and the magazine tube. And that feels like that's, yeah, there we go, snapped in. Now it's been a while since this screw was in here, so the threads may be a little crusty on the, oh no, it's starting good. Right there it goes. I'm not going to shower down on that. Yeah, very good. All right, so yeah, I think George is going to be really happy with the way this turned out. And I got a feeling with that new front sight, yeah, that looks so good. Draws your eye right to it. Even my eyes are to the point where they are not the greatest in the world. I'm going to go ahead and get that other gun out and show you what we got going on there, and we're going to fix it today too. So hang on just a minute. All right, now we're going to look at the next one we have to work on here. This is a Ruger 1022. It actually belongs to my daughter. I think I bought this for her when she was around 12. And this is one of those really cool stories where, if you're a gun guy or a guitar guy or whatever you're in, whatever you're into, you've got stories like this. So back during the ammo crunch, oh my gosh, whenever it was, I just happened to be in Walmart one day, and I was looking for 22 ammo, because every now and then they would get some in, and my gosh, you had to check about every day, and they had a 2-box limit. So I didn't check every day, but I happened to know that a lot of the ammunition came in like on Thursdays, so I made it a point like every Thursday morning to get up there. And I noticed that when I got there, they had these on a red tag. They had a red tag hanging on this. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't the first person in line. Red tag meant that it was on clearance. And So I was polite. The guy ahead of me, he walks up and I notice he sees it too. And he says, what's the price they got on that Ruger 1022 right there? And the woman looks at it and punches a number in, and she says, $125. $125. And he said, well, I'll take it. And I was like, son of a gun. So he fills out the paperwork. She's doing the instant check on him. And she says, can I help you? I said, well, I said, first of all, do you have any more of those rifles? Because I was going to buy every one they had in stock. And she said, I can check in the back and see. And so she checks in the back, and she comes back and she says, no, that's the last one we have. That's why it was on clearance. And it's like the 50th anniversary of, isn't that what it says? Yeah. And she said, that's the last one we have. So I'm looking at the ammo, and dude's waiting for his background check to come back. And he fails the background check. And he tells her, well, that's just hold it for me. He said, I'm going to call my nephew to come up here and get it. And I went, and she said, sir, we can't do that. That would be a straw purchase, because I would know your nephew is not buying it for himself. And I said, I want it then. And so, of course, I passed the background check, and that's how I got this for $125. So I knew Savannah was really needing a rifle, and so she got her a new rifle that day. I also went to every Walmart within a 60-mile radius to see if they had any more of them. And not only did they not have any more on clearance, they didn't have any more, period. So I was going to buy every one I could get my hands. It's got a stainless barrel. Of course, it's got the newer plastic barrel band, plastic trigger guard, but it's a really nice rifle, and it is extremely light. And so it was perfect for her. And I put this SIG Romeo 5 red dot on it, and she just has a blast with it. I mean, obviously she can hit very well with it. And but here's the problem. And you say, well, Jamie, I don't see anything wrong with that front sight. Well, no, you don't right now, but look. It's not fitting tight in the dovetail. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put this on the block, and I'm going to take a punch, and I'm just going to punch very lightly this side of the dovetail on the front and the rear to pinch that in a little bit, and then we're going to tap this back in place to make sure that it holds its place. And now, it doesn't really matter what side I do this from. But I'd like to get it. Let me get some stuff. I think I'm going to get a 2x4 to prop this block on that'll make it a little easier to hold in the right position. So I'll be right back. Actually, put that against a chair. Put a little clamp on it just to kind of hold the rifle in position. And then I have put this block underneath my pin block, and I'm going to use this punch. If I can find it, it's rolled under my camera tripod, of course. What I'm going to do, just do a small tap on the rear right here and on the front right here to just kind of squeeze that dovetail in just a little bit on this end and make it where I think we can slide it in from left to right, and it should tighten up that dovetail a little bit. Let's see if we can pull this off. It's not going to take much. A little more than that. Let's go a little at a time. It's one of those things where you don't want to, see, that's perfect. It stops about right there. So when I tap this in, it's going to be good and snug in that dovetail. So let me undo our clamp right here. And I think probably we don't need this anymore. It may work out better if I move the charging handle off of the table. And I'll just use my brass hammer. Perfect. Guess what? No slipping out anymore. Holds it good and tight. It's perfectly even, so I'm sure that we're going to be ready to go. She doesn't use it. She uses this Romeo 5 red dot. But, you know, she's always got them if she needs to. If she runs out of battery, she just flip the back side up and go to town. I'm guessing that this rifle was made just for Walmart, probably, because I haven't seen them anywhere else. It's a very light composite stock. It's got the 50th anniversary marking on there, and it has an aluminum, blackened aluminum receiver, just like the regular 1022s, but it has a stainless barrel, which is a pretty odd combination, because usually if you get a stainless barrel, you get a stainless receiver too. And so I'm guessing maybe this was a special run, but everybody that shoots it loves it because it runs so good and it's so light and handy. And when we used to do canoe runs a lot, this is one of them we just love to take because it's so light. Brian would just stick it up there in the front of the canoe with him, and we just tie a little lanyard to the sling. So if the canoe tipped, we wouldn't lose the gun. But it's just a little bitty tack driver, and it's just so light and handy that it's a fun rifle to own. So we've got it back in good shape now, and that concludes our videos for today. And this one didn't take long at all. Just regular maintenance on some we own, and dressing up one for a buddy of mine. And I just like messing with them. Just a whole lot of fun to work on them and to shoot them. And not much into collecting. Everything I own I shoot. So there's only a couple that I have that are, you know, that I kind of baby around a little bit, and that's just because they're just in such immaculate shape that. And most of those are old Smith & Wesson revolvers, so, you know, I don't shoot them much. I kind of just keep them safe queens, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so very few of these little jobs like this you can't do yourself. You just got to put a little forethought into it and how you're going to do it and what it's going to take to do it, and make sure you got it all. And it's no big deal. So that does us for today. I appreciate y'all watching. You can subscribe if you want to. This is just me goofing off. It's not like I'm a regular YouTuber guy. It's just every now and then when I got something that I think somebody might be interested in seeing, I stick it on there. We'll talk to you later.